Paul Kirch, President and CEO at Actus MR. Today let's talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. It's the idea of how do we get people to return our calls. I was recently talking to somebody who they were dealing with a company. They weren't a client, but they were a prospect that had expressed interest in their products and services. Yet, every attempt he made, they wouldn't return his call. I know it can be frustrating, maybe even a little demoralizing. But there's steps as a sales professional or as a business development person that you can take to get that door open or give yourself an opportunity. The first one is probably the most obvious, but it's also the most underutilized, and that's the idea of being persistent. Now, most salespeople, they stop way short. And what do I mean by that? Well, they say it takes, on average, 5 attempts to close business. 85% of the business is closed after the 5th attempt. Yet, most salespeople, they make 2, maybe 3 attempts and move on. Some of them, if they're casting a really wide net, might only make 1. Tell you what, that's knocking on a lot of doors to try and close business, whereas if you're a little bit more strategic, put a little bit more energy into it, you can open a lot of doors by just being persistent. So what else? Well, if you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I talk about touch campaigns. And touches are simply finding relevant information or information that's pertinent to your client and sending it off to them in a way that hopefully sparks dialogue and engages them. And so what does that mean? So let's say that you have a client that works in the healthcare space. Well, go out and see if you can find some information on their competitors, or maybe some new drugs that are being released, or anything you think could help them in their job or be important to them. Send that on. Now, that could be an article, a white paper, a case study, videos, you name it. There's really no limit to what you can send them. But do it in a way that is selfless and actually benefits them. So one of the things I like to do is if I find an article I think is really important to somebody that I'm working with, I'll send it on to them and say, hey, I found this article. But I don't stop there. I go through and I'll comb through and I'll pull out some bullet points and highlights. And I'll say, hey, I know you're busy. You know, I've been trying to reach you. We haven't been able to connect. But I found this article. I thought it was great. And I took some time out and I read through it and pulled out some points that I thought could be important to you. Now, not only am I showing them that I'm sending them something of value, but I'm also putting a little effort behind it. It's not a lazy approach, because unfortunately sometimes people do this and they're very lazy with it. So beyond touches, traditional marketing has also given us some great tools to connect. So if somebody's not returning your calls, try postcards. Direct mail campaigns, they still work. In fact, if a postcard comes across your desk, most people are going to look at it. That's an opportunity to connect with them. Now, they may not take any action. If there's a call to action in your postcard, it may not go any further than them just looking at it. But when you call them, maybe they'll just associate you enough with that business, that postcard, that they're going to take your call. And another area is a handwritten note. And handwritten notes are never underrated. I mean, I get cards and letters sometimes from people that I've had limited contact with, but I've had some contact with, and it always makes a nice impression. So if you want to connect with a client or a prospect that they're not returning your calls, send them off a note. Now, if they don't know you, it can be a little bit presumptuous, and it may not go over as well, but if they do know you or they've had interest in your company, thanks for attending our webinar, thanks for coming by and seeing us at our booth, whatever it is, that handwritten note can make a nice impression. And how can you almost guarantee that somebody's going to read the letter or the note that you send them, or whatever information you send? Put it in a FedEx mailer. FedEx, UPS, USPS, Priority, one of those cardboard mailers. Send it off. Almost 100% of the time that's going to get opened. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to do much with it, but if you can get them to look at it and read it, you're further along than a lot of the other marketing material that just ends up lining a garbage can. So I've given you 3 tips today, three ways that you can help engage clients that are not returning your calls. Persistence, touch campaigns, and leveraging traditional marketing. So hopefully this helps, and I encourage you to go out and give it a try. And I want to thank you again for stopping by. Thanks and have a great day.